When it comes to sports, there's more to it than just stats and highlights. There is also science. And when it comes to the science of sports, there's only two men in the world qualified to talk about it. Brought to you by CFJ Sports Network. You are watching Super Science with your hosts Antonio Sanchez and Hingle McCringleberry.
Hey there, welcome to Super Science. I'm Antonio Sanchez.
And I'm Hingle McCringleberry, and here we are at the casting couches.
And today, we will be breaking down the torque in throwing a baseball.
Torque is a very important aspect of pitching. To generate more power, the pitcher must make sure to get enough torque. When throwing a baseball, torque is measured in the separation of shoulders to hips and can be measured by the angle that they create. Tension and torque is created in the muscles in the torso as you rotate your shoulders.
Normally, when calculating torque, in this case, we would have to take many variables into account, which involves the anatomy of the person. But to simplify our calculations today, we are going to use simple torque and power formulas as opposed to incorporating all variables when calculating torque.
And now we'll be going to our top Super Science sports analyst in the lab.
Hi, I'm Juan Carlos Cruz, and let's get to analyzing those mechanics. To analyze torque and pitching, we have brought some of the top baseball players of this season. Joining us today in the lab is Corey Carter from the Philadelphia Phillies and Toru Yamaguchi from the Toronto Blue Jays to demonstrate how to calculate torque when throwing a baseball, as well as the importance of torque in a throw.
Tom House says 80% of velocity in baseball comes from shoulder-hip separation. Maximizing torque in baseball will give any pitcher the edge they need.
Yeah, torque sometimes.
To the right, we have the 930th pick in the 2012 draft, prospect Corey Carter. And here, to the left, we have 5-time Cy Young Award winner, 8-time All-Star, and 6-time MVP, drafted first overall from the 2015 draft, Toru Yamaguchi from the Toronto Blue Jays. Now we will compare the two pitchers' mechanics and how much torque they generate.
To measure just how much torque these pitchers are getting, we're using our state-of-the-art slow-motion cameras and have brought in analyst Juan Carlos Cruz to take a look.
As we can see, Toru Yamaguchi's throwing mechanics are perfect, getting maximum rotation and torque to fully deliver his trademark deadly fastball. His mechanics are a big reason why he's one of the best pitchers in the MLB today. Toru Yamaguchi gets more torque in his pitch than most pitchers, generating 343 Newton meters of torque. That's 3 times the torque generated by the average MLB pitcher. We can see that when Toru is pitching, he rotates his shoulders and his hips to generate as much torque as possible, rotating his shoulders away from his hips at an angle of 83 degrees, creating maximum tension in his hips and shoulders. According to the formula for torque, which equals RF sine theta, Toru Yamaguchi gets the maximum values of radius, force, tension in his hips and shoulders, and greatest rotation angle, resulting in 343 amount of torque when pitching. In comparison to Corey Carter, a lot less torque of 270 Newton meters, he produces less rotation and force on his throw, resulting in a very low velocity, which is below every average pitcher in the MLB today.
When we compare the two pitchers, we obviously see the difference and can easily see that Toru Yamaguchi generates more torque than the average pitchers in the MLB like Corey Carter. Since Yamaguchi gets more torque in his throws, it allows him to deliver pitches with more velocity than the average pitcher in the MLB. The speed of his fastball never drops below 100 miles per hour due to the torque he gets on his pitches. That's miles better than the average throwing velocity in the MLB.
Go beyond with Antonio Sanchez. After learning how to calculate torque in a baseball throw, Now we can use that to calculate power in a baseball throw. And the formula for power is torque times angular speed. However, we do not know the formula for angular speed, so we will quickly cover that before we calculate power. So angular speed is equal to W equals S over R times T. S standing for arc length, R representing the radius, and T the variable for time. So we have been given these variables through some behind the scenes calculations, which we will now use to calculate for W, which is the variable for angular speed. Now, in case we didn't know, angular speed is the rate of change of angular position of a rotating body. So in this case, the baseball. After our calculations, we have found the angular speed of the baseball thrown by Fahim to be 28.59 meters per second. That's pretty weak when we look at other pitchers in the MLB. Now that we have our angular speed, we can use it to calculate power. So we multiply it by torque, which gives us 7,721 watts power. That's pretty strong, except compared to our next pitcher. Now we're going to compare Ja'Cory Carter's dinky little advanced stats compared to the ones of the all-star Ataru Yamaguchi. So we're going to use the same formulas to calculate power and angular speed. So we're going to start off by calculating angular speed. Now, same as before, we're going to use previously calculated numbers as well as some behind the scenes calculations. So we already covered the formula for W, so we're going to get straight to it. After crunching some numbers, we have found Ataru Yamaguchi's power to be a whopping 10,552 watts. That's amazing when you think of how the average MLB pitcher only exerts a measly 8,000 watts of power on a baseball. That's weak.
Now, unfortunately, my co-host, Hingle McCringleberry, cannot join us for the end of this show because he had to tend to more important matters, whatever that means. But from everyone here at CJFSN Sports Networks, I am your host, Antonio Sanchez, with my host who should be here, Hingle McCringleberry, and we'd like to thank you for watching today's episode of Sports Science, and we hope you guys have a good day. See you next time. And stay tuned for the next episode of Sports Science, where we will be calculating the torque in a fidget spinner. Dog.